Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. My name is Constance, and I work in alumni career development with the University of Chicago. Our goal here is for us to create an area where you can come to network and connect with members of the UChicago community. There's so much richness in this network. We also want to build out workshops, events, programs, resources that will help you in your professional growth, wherever you are in your professional journey right now, whether it's it's looking for a new role or if it's just growing into your current role. We hope that we can provide resources to help you along the way. So welcome to our LinkedIn workshop. Speaking of resources, let's dive right in here. This is going to be a workshop. We want you to work after the end of this hour. I want you to have taken action on your LinkedIn profile, really made some changes. We're not just sitting and listening, we're all working together to make some active change. And so to that end, let me walk you through some of the goals of this session here today. Number one, I'm going to walk through some of the best practices that I have to share about LinkedIn, how to grow your personal brand on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear any questions that you have so we can make sure we get those answered. And then if you feel comfortable at the end of the session in the last 15 or 20 minutes, we're going to jump into some breakout rooms and you'll get a chance to put immediately into action, into practice what you've just learned and get some real-time feedback from members of the UChicago community. I think a really unique opportunity coming out of a session like this is to get some feedback and get some questions answered about how you look to others, externally who are approaching your LinkedIn profile without knowing you. So we're going to dive into that as well. But I'm going to start by sharing some of the best practices and the ideas that I have for you to grow your LinkedIn profile, your presence. And it's going to fall into 4 different buckets here. But I guess we'll start by thinking about why this is important work and why this is worth devoting some time to. I think everyone knows that, when we're working in an organization, we're always striving to enhance the organization's reputation, the organization's brand. But it's really important to take some time to devote to enhancing your own personal brand as well. And LinkedIn is one of the easiest tools that we have that will help us connect with our network and just kind of, make us look good, amplify your voice, share your accomplishments. And what's really cool about it is that you get to control the narrative here. So we're going to dig into how can you control that narrative? How can you, build your personal brand? Thinking about what it looks like, to build out your LinkedIn profile, maybe a step beyond the very standard traditional profile that you might see from most folks. We're going to look at growing your network and the importance of networking and connecting and really utilizing all that LinkedIn has to offer in the networking space. We'll talk through what it means to produce content, not only just liking and sharing and commenting on others, but the value in producing your own original content. And LinkedIn is a social media algorithm. So we'll talk through what that algorithm looks like, how you can train it to really be a benefit, a value add to you. And if you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll periodically take a look at it, make sure we're getting all of our questions answered. But let's dive right into the work here. And what I want you to do is take out a pen and paper if you don't already have one out, or open a Google Doc, however it is that you like to take notes. And I'm going to be going through some action steps that I recommend here to build out your LinkedIn profile. And I think what would be, the most useful way for you to spend your time here is to take some notes on whatever action steps resonate best with you, so that you can then, leave the after 20 minutes or so here of me chatting and actually, like I said, go and take some action. And I'll also share, actually, maybe I'll do that right now just to make it a little easier for everyone. I'm going to share a link so that you can download this PowerPoint yourself if it's easier to just have it right there. So there is a Google Drive link for you to download this PowerPoint. All right, so let's dive in. So let's think first about what it means to have a robust profile on LinkedIn. LinkedIn kind of scores folks' profiles, which is kind of a nice, gamification, a good way for you to learn a little bit more about how you compare to others and what holes are missing on your profile. So take a look at your score. Your goal is to try to get to that all-star level status. It'll show up right on your profile when you're clicking on your profile. But let's start at the top and kind of move our way down. When you're on your profile, you want to make sure that you've got a photo and a header picture as well. Not only is it a great way to personalize this page, show off a little bit of your personality, but it also honestly helps people recognize that you're not like a bot or something that they, that you're a real human, and they can trust when you send a connection request, for example. So that is just an easy first step to do. And then if we're moving down the page, we want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is telling a story. And I said at the beginning, you get to control the narrative in this on this page, which is really helpful. But make sure that you're being impactful and intentional about making it a story. Your LinkedIn page isn't your resume. Your resume usually is a little bit more cookie cutter, a little bit more black and white. It fits into a box very nicely. This is social media. So make it a little bit more spicy, a little bit more fun. And a few ways that you can do that is to start right off the bat with your headline and with your summary. The headline is the piece right under your name on your LinkedIn profile. And that's going to show up in all searches that people do and where your name pops up in a search. So that's going to be someone's first impression of you. LinkedIn will default to making it your title, but I would say go beyond that and go beyond the default and think through, like, who are you in just a few short words, and kind of really, really think about making that headline something that you put some time and some thought into. And then following down the page, you'll also see the summary page. That's some really valuable real estate. It's right at the top of your LinkedIn page. It's the first thing someone will see about you, after your profile photo, basically. And so I would use that space to tell you a little bit of a story about your professional journey. Some people like to use first person here. Some people prefer third person. And I would say stay within the bounds of what you feel most comfortable with. Some folks, want to really go for it and make this funny and unique and spicy, and that's all amazing. If that doesn't feel like it fits your personality, that's okay too. No pressure there. But you want to make sure that section is filled out. And when you're filling out both your headline and your summary, keywords are really useful. The keywords that you have on your profile are going to help people find you in searches. So if someone's, looking up marketing professional, if you have marketing keywords throughout your page, then when they search for those keywords, you'll more easily pop up in a search. Moving down the page into your experience section. This is where some folks might choose to just kind of copy paste from their resume. I always recommend going a little bit above and beyond what you have on your resume and adding more content to your LinkedIn profile. Something like a link could be really useful here to highlight accomplishments, whether that's annual report or a website that you built or a white paper or a research article that, anything that you can link to show rather than tell folks about your accomplishments. That's going to be a value add on your experiences section. And then let's figure out, what folks think about your profile. And I hope we'll get into this in the breakout rooms in a little bit, but this is also a good exercise to do with your friends and your colleagues. Ask people who know you, what does this profile not tell you about me? What are qualities that I have that are not being highlighted here? So you can get that feedback. And then on the flip side, people who don't know you quite as well, ask them what the profile does tell you about them, about you. Oh my goodness, here we go. But it's really helpful to get that feedback, that like kind of external validation from folks who are the audience that you're targeting, the folks who are outsiders looking at you. And then I want you to think through profiles that are really well written. Go to thought leaders who you really value their experience and their opinions. Go to supervisors at your organization, mentors, and look through their LinkedIn. Find things that are exciting about the profile and see what you can learn from that and what you can bring to your own LinkedIn profile. All right, let's move on to another section here, thinking about what it means to grow your network on LinkedIn. And again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. I'm just flying through this content otherwise. All right, so networking is what LinkedIn is all about. That is the focus of the reason that you get on a site like this. So let's really make the most of it. The biggest piece of advice that I can share is make sure that you're personalizing your connection requests to folks. If you just click connect, it will send an automated email, an automated connection request, and people are much more likely, especially people that you don't know well, are much more likely to accept the connection and then to be more engaging with you after you've been connected if you have some sort of personalized message there. It can be anything, about it was great to meet you at a conference last week. I'm looking forward to staying connected. Or I'm a fellow alum of UChicago. Your organization looks really interesting. I'd love to learn more about your career background and connect here on LinkedIn. Or anything really that can I don't know, spark something about why they should be connected to you. And then it's really helpful to let the LinkedIn algorithm kind of help you through this process. So once you go to the My Network page at the top of your LinkedIn search bar, you'll see a My Network page. And scroll down there, you'll see some recommendations. I recommend just taking some time every day or every week to add 5 people that you know, so that you're just continuously growing your network of connections on LinkedIn. 5 at a time feels like a reasonable number to me because, again, you're taking the time to craft a personalized message to each person that you're sending a connection request to. So do what works best for you. Schedule some time on your calendar every week to kind of put some work in here to building out your connections. So that's connecting. That's with people that you know, or maybe that you want to get to know a little bit better. There's also following. If you follow someone, it means maybe they're a thought leader or they're a high-level executive at your organization or in your industry. There's someone who you want to learn more from. You want to get their content, but you don't necessarily are not personally or professionally connected to them. So connecting with someone means they will be able to see anything you post pop up on their newsfeed, and you'll be able to see whatever they post. Following means you'll just see what they post. Nothing that you post will be showing up on their newsfeed. So thinking through, like, who are the thought leaders in my field? Who are the people that I have a lot to learn from? And going ahead and following them will really just kind of make your LinkedIn feed more robust, and make you have a little bit more fun when you get on LinkedIn. It'll be more relevant to the content that you want to read. I also recommend joining interest groups or joining communities. Those are great ways to expand your network, meet more people in your field. I'm going to drop a link right now in the chat to a group that, if you're not already a member of, that you should join. It's the Alumni LinkedIn group. We have alums post job openings. There's entrepreneurs sharing their cool new ventures, folks who read an interesting article and want to share it with the group. That's a great way to stay connected with the alumni community if you're not already a member. But also thinking about joining other groups that are in your industry or in your field, or where you have, maybe a personal passion that you want to learn more about. And then when you're in the group, engage with the people in that group. Comment on posts and like them, and answer questions when you see questions popping up, and share the content, share your own content on the group that's relevant to the field or to the industry. But be an engaged member of the LinkedIn group. That's how you'll really get the most out of it. And then lastly, there's some cool resources that LinkedIn offers are endorsements and recommendations, ways to get that external validation from folks that you really are skilled in the areas that you said you are on LinkedIn. So scrolling down to the bottom of your LinkedIn profile, you'll see an endorsement section. If you add skills to that, then your connections will have an opportunity to endorse you for those skills, to validate that you are skilled in that area. A level beyond that is recommendations. And recommendations are typically for someone who you have a close personal or professional relationship with, and you want to share, your great experience working with them. Typically endorsing others, recommending others, it puts the good vibes out there, and people are more likely to endorse you back or to send a recommendation back. So I think it's really helpful for other folks in your network to be able to do that to them. And it sometimes will lead to some good karma on your behalf. All right, that is all about networking. Let's go into another section here about content production. And this is where sometimes people get, I think, a little bit more intimidated and maybe a little bit more afraid to really put themselves out there on LinkedIn and produce original content. And I feel the same way. All right, so there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of combat that intimidation factor and build yourself up maybe to being more engaged with producing original content on LinkedIn. So first of all, posting articles that have been written by other folks is a really easy way to just be engaged with producing content on your LinkedIn page. And I'll start with this. Why is it helpful to do any of this? It's because the more you like, the more you comment, the more you post, the more you create on LinkedIn, the more your name will be showing up in the feed of your connections. And just, having people kind of repeatedly see your name starts to develop this idea that you have a brand, you have engaging content, you have interesting things to share and say with the world. And it just kind of keeps your name in the forefront of their mind. And I think that's really useful all around. So what do you do to do that? Yes, posting an article that you find interesting. I read this article in the Harvard Business Review today. It really resonated with me for such and such reasons. Does anyone feel the same, or has anyone experienced something similar at their work? That's a great, easy post that you can share on LinkedIn. I imagine, a lot of us here are taking some time over coffee to read an interesting article in our field. Don't just read it, take it a step further and post about it on LinkedIn. I would also think about, we talked on the networking section there about following companies, organizations, thought leaders. Once you see interesting public, content that they've published on LinkedIn, go ahead and actually thoughtfully comment on that. Take some time to scroll through your feed and read the articles that people share and make some comments yourself about the content. I feel like that's something that, again, is going to be a really meaningful way to interact with folks, especially with, top leadership of your organization, with people who you really want to make a good impression on, just showing them that you're engaged with the material that they have, you have something interesting to say in their realm. I also really advocate for thinking about LinkedIn beyond just your small industry. You have a job, and I think a lot of people use LinkedIn to post about your professional interests and your professional work. But you're a whole person. You probably have a lot of other passions. You might be trying to learn about something in another area. So be a little intentional about writing down a list of all the different interests that you have, and specifically that you want to be known for. And then think about being, purposeful about sharing articles about all these different topics. You could work in marketing, but be interested in something like AI software or diversity, equity, and inclusion work, or traveling or climate change, whatever it is that shows, your network that you are a whole multifaceted person. And again, is a value add to the folks who will be scrolling through your feed. Think about sharing articles on a variety of different topics. So taking it to another level is actually writing and producing your own articles. So there are two things that would kind of be a different distinction between writing something on LinkedIn. One is just writing a post. And so when you are on your LinkedIn page, when you're on your LinkedIn homepage, at the very top, you see start a post. You can write a post there, link an article, and that's just a post that'll show up on folks' news feeds as they're scrolling through. You also have the option from that write a post section to click write article. And that's going to be a LinkedIn housed original article style content. I would say if you're an expert in something, that is a really great way for you to share your expertise with the community. And I recommend writing more of a niche article rather than keeping it really general. If it's really general, it probably already exists somewhere out there. So stay niche in your specific field. But just if you're not necessarily an expert already, it doesn't mean you can't be writing your own articles on LinkedIn. A really great example of how you can do that is you go to a conference and you know, over the course of the 2-day conference, distill the top 10 learnings that you took away from that. That's a great article to share with your community. Or, you know, a situation that you encountered in the workplace and how you approached it. That's, you know, another interesting way that you can share some of your own experiences via the articles section on LinkedIn. And all of this obviously takes some time. It takes some thought and some effort. And so, like I mentioned, I think before, I recommend just maybe like 20 minutes, put it on your calendar every Friday morning. You know, you don't usually have meetings on Friday mornings. Take some time, have your coffee, and just scroll through LinkedIn and force yourself to get in the habit of starting by posting some articles and then kind of gradually building up to writing your own article, or just starting by commenting on other folks, liking other folks' posts, and kind of building yourself up as you get better and more connected with the LinkedIn community. All right, I'm seeing a few questions in here. So how do you post an article on LinkedIn? Yeah, just to reiterate, I wanna make sure it's, you click that start a post button and you can link an article from an external source there, or you can write an article on your own right at the top of that page. And then I do get a question about, yeah, is it silly when the person that you endorsed then endorses you? I don't think that anyone who's going to be looking at your endorsement are going to be looking at your endorsement so closely that they're going to say, oh, you know, this person endorsed Sam. Let me click on their profile and see if Sam endorsed them so that they can, you know, I don't think anyone's going into that much detail. So usually it's helpful. Usually I endorse colleagues because they know my work, or I know their work, and in turn, they also know my work. And so it's easy enough to have some reciprocal relationship there. All right, I'm going to move on here. This is our last section before we dive into some breakout rooms. So let's talk about this algorithm on LinkedIn. The more engaged you are with LinkedIn, the more engaged you are with other people's posts, liking and commenting on other people's posts, and then posting your own, the more this site will get to know you, get to know your preferences, and it'll be a value add for you to actually spend time on LinkedIn rather than making it a chore. So you train the algorithm to your benefit is really going to be valuable here. So if you're a job searcher, if we have any job seekers on the line, click on the jobs function at the top of your LinkedIn page. And from there, you'll see some jobs that they recommend for you. And that could be based on keywords in your profile, jobs you've looked at before. And what I recommend is actually going through and clicking on the jobs that look like they're an interesting fit for you. And the more you click, the more it'll get to know you and be able to send you more personalized job recommendations. And then you also have the option to select, I'm not interested, for any of the recommended jobs that just are not a good fit for you. Again, a great way for the algorithm to get to know you in your job search. I also recommend, you know, finding companies that you can follow through the recommendations. That will also kind of get to help the site get to know what's most interesting to you, so that your feed will then be more populated with the companies, the industries, that the people who work at those companies that you actually want to hear from, rather than just kind of a random hodgepodge of posts from your very big network. Another really, you know, fun and interesting way to connect and learn about what's happening in your field is hashtags. It's really easy. I mean, if you're not super familiar, a hashtag is basically just a way to aggregate a lot of content about one specific topic. So you can search for hashtags at the top of your search bar. Search for example, for me, I would look for higher education or hashtag career development, and then follow the hashtag so that anything that's, that has a lot of engagement and a lot of content sharing. Any posts that are doing really well in the LinkedIn algorithm will then pop up on my newsfeed, so I can be continuously learning more about the career development space, about the higher education space. And then LinkedIn's Discover Hub, I put the link in there, is just kind of aggregate all of these different recommendations for you. Companies you should follow, people that you should connect with, hashtags that might be interesting to you. And I would say take a look at what that Discover Hub looks like for you, and then do a little bit of an audit. Does it look like LinkedIn has a good picture of who you are? Do you think that the algorithm has its finger on your pulse? You know what I mean? And if not, then maybe do a little bit more work into following specific companies, groups, hashtags, people, thought leaders that will kind of help train LinkedIn's algorithm to get to know you a little bit better. And then you're going to get more. There's a few different ways that LinkedIn basically like qualifies posts. Some of them their AI qualifies it as spam. Some of it qualifies it as like a high quality post or just a low quality post. You'll get more high quality posts based on LinkedIn's algorithm if you tag people in the post, if you use hashtags in any of your posts. So think thoughtfully about how you can add that in to your posts, but I want to make sure that it's in a really respectful way. Think about keeping the hashtags, I would say, between 3 and a max of 10 hashtags on a post. Any more than that, sometimes LinkedIn will flag it as spammy. And thinking about the kinds of words you're using in your hashtag to keep them really relevant to the specific content that you're posting about. And the same with people. I would only tag people, companies, institutions, organizations, if it's relevant to the post itself, not just kind of frivolously tagging folks. And then the algorithm also kind of marks posts as more high quality, which means they'll be shown to more people and more folks' news feeds if there's more engagement on the posts. So sometimes you'll get more engagement on your posts if you ask a question. Like I said, I read this really cool Harvard Business Review article. Does anyone feel the same way? Or is anyone else experiencing this in their work? If so, how are you dealing with it? Those kinds of things are going to encourage more folks to comment on your posts. And then I encourage you to then reply to their comments, make it a conversation, make it a meaningful interaction, rather than, necessarily just kind of posting something because you have to post something and you feel like it makes you look better. Okay, that is all that I have for now. I see one question in the chat. I'm just going to quickly read this. Yeah, so a question says, can you talk about how hashtags work? I see folks creating all kinds of hashtags while posting. What happens with these? Do they show up in searches? So if you post something and you use a hashtag, that means when someone else searches for that hashtag or tries to follow that hashtag, there's a likelihood or there's possibility that your post will then show up on their feed. So it actually introduces your content that you're posting to people who aren't even in your network necessarily. So it's just a way to amplify the visibility of your posts and to teach, or to, I guess, like grow your voice in the field. Any other questions for me before we jump into the next portion of our work here? Yeah, I see another question here about your profile photo. Should it be formal, a suit and tie, a power suit, or more informal? And I think either one is totally acceptable at this point. It is the social media, it is the internet. I like when people show their personality on LinkedIn. I think thinking through, respectable attire, if it's not full-on business attire, I think that's totally fine. If it's, sometimes a little funky or black and white or a cool background, you can definitely play around with it as long as it feels just like a respectable photo that you'd be open to sharing with your colleagues. All right, I am going to stop sharing for just a quick second here. And we're going to go into the next portion of our work here today. So what we're going to do, I've shared in the chat the link to download that PowerPoint. I hope you took some notes on, what action items you would like to see taken on your profile. And now we're going to take 15 or 20 minutes or so, get into some breakout rooms and actually just to get into work here.